What's up, Jake? How you doing, buddy? Oh, wait, where? Oh, nice. I know exactly what it is. I have to be careful with the mosquitoes. Okay, good. You'll be safe then. Daniela, what's up?
All good, Tristan. How's it going?
Good. Nice to see you today. Thanks for doing this with us. Of course, you're with Box Brownie. It's nice to have you along as well. You're in Arizona. Do you currently live there or are you just visiting?
No, I live in Arizona, in Glendale. I've been living here for almost 3 years. I'm
Oh,
originally from Caracas, Venezuela, so a long ways away, but I am based in Arizona currently.
no way. That's awesome. I like that. So we can do this whole thing in Spanish, but we won't. Got it.
Exactly. Exactly. We can plan for another one just in Spanish if you want.
All
But this
right. This one's from Click to Close, unveiling photography secrets to elevate your real estate brand. I think it's timely because we do want to stand out in the current market, even though we have low inventory, some of the inventory that's stale needs a little refresh. So I love this. Let's get started, Daniela.
Yeah, let's get to it. I am super excited to be here. I'm just going to quickly introduce myself. My name is Daniela Stiave, but you can call me Danny. I work for boxbrownie.com, and before working with them, I was a photographer and I also worked in the film industry. So my experience very much relies on storytelling and on imagery, and I'm very, very passionate about that. So obviously for boxbrownie.com, photography is incredibly essential. I'll just remind everyone who is not familiar with who we are and who hasn't seen the previous two episodes that we recorded with Tristan. We are a photo editing company with a focus on property marketing. So we have a wide array of edits for you to create beautiful imagery and content to help you market your listings and your business in the best way possible. So I get this question a lot when I'm dealing with new customers. They ask me, Danny, what are the things that we can do to make sure that our virtual staging looks the best, that our editing looks the best? And I always say it starts with the basics. You need to have a good photo to begin with. So today we are going to learn some of those basic and fundamental elements that we need to actually create a good photograph, and then we're also going to be using that to leverage our social media marketing strategy, which is so important nowadays. So make sure to stick to the end, because first we're going to learn the basics and then we're going to talk about how we can make a good use of that in our social media. So are we ready to get started, Tristan, and talk about photography?
We're ready. And just a reminder, everyone, this is recorded, so it'll go into our YouTube channel probably a day and a half, 2 days from now. And we'll also email it to all the registrants. So we're ready for you, Daniela.
Thank you so much. So I want to start by talking a little bit of history and sharing some fun facts just to put photography into perspective nowadays. So this is the first picture that you're seeing on screen. This is the first photo ever taken or ever captured in history in 1827. And Tristan, can you guess how long that image took to be taken? How long the exposure time was?
10 minutes.
It was actually 8 hours. It took 8 hours. So
That was off.
imagine, imagine nowadays having to wait 8 hours just for that click. So this was the first attempt at photography. This is where everything was born. Just a few years later, it became a phenomenon and people started to really want to know more about photography and really grow that business. So this is the first image to be taken of a human being. And while you try to find where the human is in this photo, I'll just give a little context. This is the process when you see in the movies that people hide behind a blanket and the camera and kind of blow something up and then they take the photo. This is what's
Yeah.
called a daguerreotype. So this is the first standard process of photography. And this is only a few years later. You can see the definition is incredible compared to the first one. Let's
Mm.
see here. If you haven't found them, it's right here. Can you see them?
I see that. What is it? What are they doing? Are they
So this was
pumping water?
total coincidence. It was someone in the morning going for work. They had their shoes polished, and that's how they showed up in the picture. They were sitting
Oh,
there getting their shoes polished, and that's why they were standing still long enough to actually show up in the image.
Wow.
So you can see that in just a few years, the difference from this to this is monumental.
Yeah.
And even just a few years later, jumping into the 1900s, now photography has become a standardized process and it's becoming an industry. There is such a high demand for photography that companies like Kodak are now making it available to absolutely everyone. And what you see on screen is the Box Brownie camera, which is one of the first cameras ever to be invented and made out to the general public. And some people may be familiar with this. If you are, let me know on chats if you've seen this camera before. The production for this went on until the 80s, so it's pretty
Wow.
interesting. Yeah. And you may notice that the coincidence is that our name is Box Brownie, and that's where we take inspiration. I'm sure Brad told you about this, but that's where we come from. So photography went from being a very rustic and also a very scientific and experimental process to being standard practice. And in fact, it's so standard that nowadays we all have a camera in our back pockets. We all have our phones right here, to the point that every year 1.8 trillion photos are taken, 143 billion photos are taken per month, 32.9 billion per week, 4.7 billion per day, and 196 million per hour. 54,000 photos are taken every second. So that is an incredible amount of content and photograph that is out there in the world. And today we are going to learn how to stand out from that. How do we make our images stand out from that crowd and that sea of images that we're looking every day online? When it comes to real estate, we've already mentioned that the world is very competitive. We also know that buyers are relying on the internet more and more every day. In fact, in 2022, I think it's 52% of buyers found their home online. So they are really relying on the images that you're putting out there to make that decision.
Very
So
true.
we're going to learn those elements. This is going to be helpful for anyone, whether you are taking your photos yourself. Again, nowadays we have the resources to take photos by ourselves with our phone cameras and apps like Snap, which we talked about in previous exercise and previous trainings. And then you can also obviously hire a professional photographer, which is best practice, is obviously what we want to be doing. But you can help them do their jobs and give them some tips. And hey, this is the best time that you can go to the property, or this is the where to start. So we're going to try to understand all of the things that go behind creating an image. And starting with three basic things that we need to take into account when we're taking photos. And I'm going to start with number one, which is light. And Tristan, if you have any questions or if you have any comments, please let me know. When I get really excited, which I am because I love talking about this, I talk really fast. So just jump in and let me know, okay?
No, I think I'll probably pause you if I have questions about lighting. So this is good. I might have questions for you on this.
Perfect. I love that because light is it's probably the thing that made me fall in love with photography. I understand
Mm.
that light is a breathing, living thing and it acts in so many different ways. And the way that we use light can dramatically affect and change a photo. So obviously there's a lot that goes behind it, but today I want to share two different kinds of lights, the scenarios that we can run into that are also very common when we're photographing a property. But I'm going to start the example with a portrait. This is my beautiful grandma who let me model. And she is posing under direct sunlight right now. Now, remember last episode when Alana was talking about how important um, taking a headshot or having a good headshot is for your brand building? Well, these are some tips that you can implement if you want to take a good headshot. Just understand the light and you'll have a good photo. So
Mm.
hard light is the first scenario, and it happens when the light is hitting our subject directly. So in this case, the sun is hitting the subject directly. There is nothing blocking it. It's also very, very high up in the sky. So there's no diffusing of those rays of sunshine, which is causing a lot of hard shadows, and all the light is going into those crevices, and it creates a lot of texture, a lot of drama. So that's what happens when we are having hard light. And then another scenario is soft light. So this is the same photograph, the same person, but the light is behaving differently. In this case, the sun or a light source has something that is not blocking it, but just diffusing it and make it look a lot softer and just not hitting the subject so directly. So you can see that the effect is a lot more blurring, a lot more generous. So when we're taking headshots, usually, or even when we're taking selfies, this is a good thing to keep in mind. If you find that soft light that's going to hit you and just blur your face and your skin, it's probably going to be a flattering look. So those are the two types of lights that I want to keep in mind for this little exercise that we're going to do. Any questions so far?
No, I like this.
All right, cool. So we are going to put this into practice when it comes to shooting a real estate property. So the property that we are going to shoot today, it's set up like this. The back of the building is facing east and the front of the building is facing west. What does this mean? It means that when the sun rises and during the day, it hits the back of the building. And when it starts to go down, it's going to start hitting the front of the building. So we can use this to our advantage when we're taking a photo. So I went ahead and take a photo of the front of the building, which is going to be my main photo. And this is how it looks like. I went out around 11 a.m. So the sun was very high up in the sky. It was hitting the property at an angle. So you can see that there are very harsh shadows in here and that the front of the property is a little bit in the shadows. Now, this is not a bad photo. Sometimes this is what we have to deal with. And that's why we have photo editing. In boxbrownie.com, we can go ahead and help you remove those shadows and just make this look a lot, nicer. But if we're able to take the photo and make it look, how we want it to look using the light that we need, we can do that as well. So I waited a little bit and went out again at 2:30 and took the same photo again. Now, these two photos have only basic editing, only light adjustment, they don't have any big changes, but the difference is that the sun in this occasion was a little bit further down, so it was hitting the front of the property instead of being behind it or instead of being above it. And that's why the light is a little bit softer and more flattering. It was also because the sun was coming down, it wasn't as strong, so there's no any harsh shadows. So yeah, that's how you can use light. And this is not to say that I'm telling everyone go out at 2:30 and take your photos or go out at noon and take your photos. I'm saying you can understand how light behaves and how it's directed, and you can use that to your advantage, whether you're taking your photos or if you're booking a photographer and you're looking at the times that they have available and you know that 2:30 or 3 is going to be a good time, you can set that up. So you can use that to your advantage. That is for light.
I have a question on light.
Yeah.
Is there a website that we should go to see the sun's trajectory depending on where we are? Because now you got me thinking, it's like when I book a photography session with my photographer for my listing, I'd like for them to come out when the light is hitting the front of the house.
Exactly. Well, that's funny that you should ask. Let me go back to my little diagram. The way that I figured this out is because this is the building that I lived in. This is the apartment that I rent. And in the mornings, the sun hits me directly. My bedroom is towards the back of the building. And in the afternoon, if I move to the front, which is where my living room is, that's where the sun is hitting me. So that's kind of how I understood that it worked. Of course, you can find how the building is located, find the directions. I'm not a very space-oriented person, but I do love observing light. So that's how I understood that if I wait until the sun is going down a little bit, I'm going to get the best effect in the front of my property. I hope that makes sense.
I love it. So you're telling me to probably ask the owners and say, hey, what time is the sun? Oh, I like that. That's much easier, actually.
Yeah, you can just ask them, hey, when you wake up, is there light coming into your bedroom? Or what are some times that you notice light coming in? And I'm sure that they've realized and they have observed that and they can help you figure out the best time to do it.
I love it. Thanks.
Yeah. All
Easy.
right. So we have master light. I think that we understand the basic concept of light. Again, this is just the very, very foundation, but I think we're ready to move on to point number 2. Are we ready, Tristan?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. So we're going to talk about composition. And my number 2 tip is that framing is key. You make the decision of what to photograph and what goes inside your photo and how to place it. And the way that you do this is going to heavily influence the outcome. So let's take a look at the rule of thirds. I'm sure that you've seen in your iPhones or even in cameras that you have a little grid in it. That grid, it's not just, for funsies. It's actually a guideline to help you take better photos. And it's called the rule of thirds. So what is the rule of thirds? Basically, you are going to imagine your image with a grid on it, and that grid is going to divide the photo into 9 equal parts. You're going to have 2 horizontal lines and 2 vertical lines that are evenly spaced. And the idea is that you put your important stuff along these lines or where they cross, and that you use all the sections to kind of balance your image. I know that this is a little bit tricky, but let's look at it with an example. And in this occasion, my cat Winifred was my model. He's somewhere around here. And Tristan, what's the first thing that you see when you're looking at this photo? What pops up to you?
The eyes.
The eyes, yeah. The eyes are definitely the focal point of the photo. And it's just not just because they're beautiful and colorful and they jump out. It's also because of how he's framed. So let's take a closer look. Let's put our grid on. And now let's break it down. We're going to see where he's positioned and how all the lines work to make him look good. So first thing that we're looking at is balance. Balance is pleasing to the eye. We want things to be pleasing to the eye and that we enjoy looking at them. And to find balance, you can use these guidelines to, find that equilibrium between stuff. So in this case, I place the eyes in the middle grid, and then I have equal distance between the other 2 grids so that he's almost perfectly in the middle. Not entirely perfect. And of course, all these rules are meant to be broken, but that's how it looks.
I like this.
Now, we also use it to create points of interest. Depending on where you place things on your image, it's gonna draw the attention. In this case, his main eye, which is the one that's in focus and that looks sharp, it's right in the middle. So of course, your eye is gonna go straight to the middle. And if you notice, you have all of these invisible lines pointing towards it. And that's where the rule of third comes in handy. So you can place your subjects in the middle. You can also move them around, but that's kind of a fireproof technique. Just try and get your subjects centered. And then another thing that the rule of third is so effective in is creating movement and creating interest in the image. So by placing Winnie towards the left side of the image rather than just having him here, we're creating a little bit of movement. We're also making this the focal point instead of something else. So using these lines to place your subjects is going to really help. So that's the theory. We've understood it a little bit. Now let's look at it into practice, and let's go back to our property photos. So we selected, we have our time of 2:30 with the beautiful light that we want to use. So this is a photo. Let's put it to the test with the grid. So what do we think? How's this looking, Tristan?
I like this. This is great. That focal point is right in the middle, right? On the So you're saying like maybe, oh, this is interesting. I never looked to do this, and maybe shift the focal point. So where would you shift the focal point here? Would you keep it there, or do you want it to be somewhere else?
Well, that's a good question. What happens to me with this photo is that it is very symmetrical. It's perfectly balanced. Even the sky and the grass are kind of the same distance. But it's also very flat. If you look at it, it just looks like a 2D, the building is just like one straight line. So I want to add a little bit of dimension into this photo. This is already a good photo, but we want to make it a little bit more interesting and make it pop out of the screen. So we're going to play around with the angles. So that's something that you need to do. You need to take multiple photos. Don't just go take photos, think about it, and find different angles that you like. So I tried it this way, and it doesn't quite work. And it doesn't quite work for me because there's too much grass. It's taking way too much space. I'm cutting some of the property, so it doesn't look balanced. Let's try it again. What do you think is wrong with this one, Tristan?
Oh, there's too much of the sky, I think.
Too much of the sky. Look at all that's taken. It's taken a whole third of your photo. So you're driving attention away from the property. I think it's still a little better. So let's go ahead and just adjust a little bit more. Thoughts on this one?
It's a little better, but I feel like now I'm looking at 2 different buildings.
Exactly. You'll put your building right here, which is a point of interest, but now you also have this in a point of interest and you have a lot of tree. So I'm just going to adjust a little bit more, just a little bit. And for me, this is the winning image. and we just look at it, I can see that there's balance,
Mm.
there's an equal distribution of sky and ground, there's movement. I have angled myself so that I can see the dimension of the property, and there's points of interest. We have our main point of interest right in the center, but then we also have these here complementing that. So for me, this is the winning photo. That is my, my taste, or sort of the style that I want. But of course, you have to find what you like, and that's where the grid comes in, or the rule of thirds comes in. You can play around with that. So we've already seen light and we've already seen framing. Those are two main components, and I'm going to move on to our last bit. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Let's go. So prepare for success. This one's really easy, really obvious. You just gotta make sure that you are ready to take the photos and that your property or whatever you're photographing is looking its best. Um, a little fun fact is that clutter and psychology are very related to each other. And when you look at clutter and you look at a messy thing, it causes stress because you're overstimulating the senses, and your brain thinks, like, it goes like, work isn't being done, this isn't working, so you feel guilty, it gives anxiety, it gives you overwhelmed. So these are all things that are proven, and when you look at a photograph that has that, that's where you are kind of given away. So we have taken this photo of the interior of a property, which is, I think this is a very common scenario where we go into a property and there is a little bit of clutter in there. We have
Mhm.
found the light that we want. So we have beautiful light coming into the property. We have
Yeah.
found a good frame, balanced frame that we like, but the attention to detail and the preparation isn't there. So what's the solution to this? It's simply cleaning it up. So in this case, this photo again
Mm.
hasn't been edited. I simply hid the stuff that was bothering me. So I know that not everyone's gonna want to have cat toys in the property. This is my sweater. No, that's blocking this whole space. Some of my personal items are also lying around. So I simply cleaned that up, made it look a little bit better. And of course, inboxbrownie.com, if you're not able to do this, or if you want to remove everything because you want to give a clean canvas, we can just simply do an item removal. But this is kind of the very basics, and this is how you can prepare. And we actually have prepared a pre-photography checklist for you. So you can scan that QR code or go to boxbrownie.com/resources, and you can download that from there. And this is something that you can send to your clients and be like, hey, the photographer is coming in today. If you want to go through this and make sure that you clean these up and move this and move that, you can go through that list. And it's a big help to help them prepare for beautiful imagery. And there you go. You have three key elements of photography to help you create stunning imagery. Easy peasy. How are you feeling about that?
I'm liking it. I just had to scan the QR code really
Yeah.
quick to see what you're giving away.
Go ahead and scan that. It's a PDF file that you can download and you can send out. And
Oh, cool. Oh, that's easy. You got general outside area. I like this. Thank you.
of course,
Oh, you go through every part of the home.
every part of the home, you can just click on the check boxes and make sure that you're prepared for that photo shoot so that the property looks awesome.
You could actually give this to the homeowners.
Yep, that's kind of the idea.
Oh,
Uh,
this is really good.
Yeah, so you can go to boxbrownie.com. It's in our resources section. You can also scan that QR code. If for any reason you can't, just email me and I'll get it to you. And I think we can send it out after so that you can access it.
I like it. Thank you so much.
Of course. My pleasure. So we have the basics. Now let's put it into practice. So let's talk about social media, which I think everyone is anxious to know more about. It's such a big thing nowadays. So I recently learned that the majority of the leads that agents are getting are actually coming from social media. So you have social media at 52%, CRMs in second place at 31%, and MLSs at third place at 28%. So a lot of your marketing efforts are going to have to be focusing on social media now and understanding how everything works. And I really want this training to not only be about the things that you have to do. So I'm not just going to tell you go post, go this, go do that, but also how to do it. So we've already learned about photography and how we can create content, and now we can put that into practice. So we're going to grab some of the things that we know that we have to do in social media marketing, and we're going to think about strategies on how to implement that and how to put that into practice. So the first thing, and I think the most important thing that you need to figure out, is find your target audience. Who are you selling to? Who are you marketing to? Because it is going to affect the way that they're receiving your message. And I always hear this when you go to social media workshops and stuff like that. So I want to give a little perspective on it. So I went ahead and did a little research, and I found out that millennials actually represent 43% of home buyers, and they are the highest share of any generation of home buyers. So when we're thinking about social media marketing, we might want to tailor to the millennials. So then again, I went ahead and did some research here, and I found out that the top 3 platforms that millennials use are going to be Facebook at number 1, Instagram at number 2, and YouTube at number 3. So instead of trying to do Twitter, TikTok, and all the social medias and everything, I'm going to focus my efforts on maybe Facebook and Instagram, and if I want to, YouTube, and I'm going to tailor it to millennials. And this is, again, I'm not telling you, yeah, just sell to millennials. I'm saying prepare and look what works for you. So this is just an idea and an avenue that you can explore. Second tip is follow trends. I get this all the time. There's so many trends. There's TikTok audios, there's the challenges, there's so many things that you can do. So what I want to do is kind of simplify this and give you some advice on how you can get inspiration. Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, according to Oscar Wilde. So my best tip is go find other accounts and other creators that you like. I found 2 real estate accounts that I really enjoyed. I think they have good content, so you can go check them out. But find some that you want and see what content they're posting out there. See which of their posts are getting more likes, and use that to your advantage. Come up with a formula that works for you, which brings me into my next advice, which is tell your story. We get this all the time. Tell your story, be authentic, be real, be yourself. But it's a little hard when we don't know what to post. So there is no better marketing strategy than storytelling. If we look into what storytelling does, I learned that a story is up to 22 times more memorable than facts alone. So I'm going to tell a story about my grandma, which you already met in the first few slides. When I was growing up, my grandma is a great cook, and she's an amazing baker. And when I was little, I was always tell her, Grandma, why don't you write a recipe book, invent a cake, and then we can be rich and we can be famous from your cake? And she used to say, that's all been invented. There are no new recipes and no new cakes. The recipes are already out there. What I do is I add to the recipe. I find a recipe that I like, that I find interest, and then I add my own touch and my own ideas to it. So you can take that and translate it into social media. Let's say that you find a formula that you like, but maybe you want to add a little bit of yourself into that. So let's say that you really love coffee and you really love trying new coffee shops. So you can go ahead and post photos of the coffees that you take and recommend these places in this neighborhood that you sell properties at. And you're going to attract other people that share those common interests with yourself. And maybe they're not ready to buy a property now, but when they are ready, they're going to think of you because, oh, she's the Asian that loves coffee like me. Let me go to her Instagram account and let me contact them. And just like that, you get a lead. So don't be afraid to just bring more of your story and of your thoughts into your social media. It's not just about the just listed or the property for sale. It's also about who you are as a person and what you bring to the table. And the second to last thing that we're going to talk about is post diversified content. We always hear that you got to post constantly. I think this is not about you got to post a million times a week or a million times a day. Less is more in that case. I think it's about using all the different resources that are out there. If we look at Instagram alone, you can do stories, you can do carousels, you can do reels, you can do videos. Fun fact, carousel posts have the highest average engagement out of all feed post types, and images have a slightly higher average than videos, excluding reels. So we know reels are very popular, images work a little bit better. So do a little bit of everything. Maybe you want to make a post about the property that you just listed, but you want to make a story about the beautiful sunset that you can see from that property. So play around with it and don't stress about it, which brings me to my last tip. Just start. Start today. You have the tools to create content. you know, understand light, you understand composition and framing, and you are ready to make those photos happen. So that is it for today. Again, boxbrownie.com. We specialize in photo editing, so start making that content. We'll edit it for you and make it look beautiful. If you want to get started, you can scan that QR code to create your account. You get a free $20 credit and a few free edits. And that is it for the presentation, Tristan.
That was really good. I followed a lot of the things that you're talking about. I had to do on the side. I'm like, where did she get that awesome data from NAR? So I looked that up. I was like, got it, found it. And
Yep.
then that quote that you used, because I also have it up on mine. I had to search for it, where to go. Stories are remembered up to 22 times more than facts alone.
I
That
love
was
that.
such a
Yeah, I
great
love that.
quote.
That's what I love about doing this trainings, that it also gives me the opportunity to research and find out new things. And I thought that fact is so cool. And it does make total sense. I always remember good stories. And that's how we connect through stories. That's how we get people to connect and to relate to our content. So don't be afraid to do it.
But I think part of that too, that is clear, is that pictures tell stories too. And when you include that picture that's telling me a story, that you've got me engaged even more.
Absolutely. I think photos speak 1,000 words, you know, you have so many ways of telling stories. And I think that we can break out of just having those MLS photos. And yes, you want those beautiful property photos, but also go into the details and don't be afraid to zoom in into stuff and get the outside views. And maybe you went to a house and you met a cute puppy and you can post that as well. Just everything is content nowadays. So you have your phone, you have the basics. So start taking photos and videos of everything, and then figure it out and post it on your Instagram, on your Facebook, your TikTok. And again, all of these tips apply for photography, but also for video. So if you're making reels, if you're making did you know type of thing, if you want to actually talk to the camera, then just keep all of that into account and find the light that's most flattering to you, find a background that's interesting, and use that to create content as well. So yeah, I hope that this was helpful for everyone.
I love it. Thank you so much for doing this. And can you go back to that last screen so people can get that credit as well?
Yeah, of course.
Because I loved that presentation and I loved it. Dude, does everybody get this presentation or no?
We can send it out, I think.
That'd be great. Thank you. If you
Yeah,
could email
absolutely.
it to us, I'd love to send this out to people because I didn't know some of the stuff that you're talking about. I felt like I was sitting through a learning class. It was great.
That's kind of what I was going for.
Thanks,
I'm glad that
Daniela.
you're saying that because I'm so passionate about photography, and I get so many people, let's say that they are going to submit a virtual staging job and then they use their phone in portrait mode instead of using it like this. So I can see that the framing is not right. Even if the virtual staging is gorgeous, the original photo needs some love. So that's why we wanted to create something that was a little educational and a little different. So yeah, I'm glad that you enjoyed it.
Great job. Awesome job. Thank you so much, Daniela.
Yeah, thank you. And I can hear some people saying thank you on the chat. So I just want to thank everyone from being here. And I hope that you learned something new today and that you start going and create beautiful photos.
I did. Thank you. Everyone, thank you for joining us. This was awesome. Daniela, hope to see you again soon.
Of course, we will. Have a
All
good
right.
day.
Bye-bye, everyone.